just fail to understand, and I think it goes to the heart of that cartoon as well. I fail to understand uh, what what people think that they can do or say if the words are changed in 18C, or if 18C is in fact removed. I know you're talking about a specific cartoon, but the bigger debate for me is, and James, you still haven't answered it, what is it that you want to be able to do or say um, if 18C is changed or removed, and how, as David's just articulated, how is freedom of speech actually attacked in this country?
We are running out of time. I'm sorry, James. Linda Burney, James Patterson, David Marr. James, can you do it in 5 seconds?
Well, I answered it before. That someone would like better say that QT is stopping segregation without segregation. Today, that could cost you 4 years in court.
That's all from us this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show this week.
Yeah, righto. Well, I must say the first part of the discussion was really interesting, and I was recording it, but I got distracted. And while I was getting distracted, I completely overran the 15-minute, 30-second upload limit, which I'm on because reasons. Last time I changed phones, YouTube didn't quite want to recognise the new phone. Therefore, I can't upload any more than 15 minutes, so I live within it. It strikes me that I'm called Warbles on a lot for a reason, and to avoid flooding the feed and going over length, it's a good thing that I've got a cut-off limit. But anyway, it means that, yeah, I completely made a mess of this morning's recording, where you got the synopsis of it in 2 minutes at the very end. For reasons best known to himself, which are probably connected with internal political, tactical bickering, Malcolm Turnbull is revisiting Section 18C of the Anti-Discrimination Act, which makes it illegal to vilify somebody, also to humiliate them and denigrate them. And as the lady said, because this next section in the Anti-Discrimination Act is Section 18D, which basically says if you honestly believe whatever it is that you've said, then it's okay for you to say it. And they mentioned the celebrated case of Andrew Bolt, who wrote and published an article in The Australian where he had claimed that 9, quote, light-skinned Aborigines, unquote, had all decided to embrace their Aboriginality or discover their Aboriginality late in life in order that they could win prizes and awards and scholarships, right? And that was totally factually wrong. But he based his entire scathing article around that completely wrong fact. And because he's a journalist and he's supposed to do research, he's supposed to be in connection with reality, the judge said, you don't even qualify under 18D. You've got no escape clause. You are guilty of this, take it on the chin and conduct yourself in a more civilised fashion next time. Apparently, some people have been posting on a Facebook or a Tweety page or whatever a fake wanted poster calling for the Human Rights Commissioner and I think Tim Saponapam, whatever his name is. They want the people who were responsible for a court case against Bill Leak for his cartoon about the Aborigine for murder, because poor old Bill Leak, before he died, mentioned the incredible stress he was under because somebody had made a complaint about him to the Human Rights Commission and the investigation and all the rest of it. And the spokesperson from the Human Rights Commission had said, yeah, well, it wouldn't have been nearly so stressful if Bill had have agreed to cooperate with the proceedings. But as soon as he was served papers, he threw his hands in the air and put on a big bloody poor, pitiful me temper tantrum in front of the cameras and said, oh, alack and alas, woe is me, I'm not going to cooperate with any of these proceedings. So the reason it was long and slow and complicated was because he didn't fucking cooperate with it. If he'd just gone in there and said all the things that eventually were said, he would have got off a whole lot faster. So there's no point in him complaining about the ponderous tediousness of the procedure when it was only ponderous and tedious because he made it that way. One of the things I don't think the right wing of the Liberal Party and the right wing of the National Party and probably the Hansonites as well, they don't seem to have processed is that just because they want to get a minor thrill out of saying something really vicious and nasty about whatever ethnocentric minority group they like to pay out on, if they specifically go and remove Section 18c or change the wording so that it's okay to deliberately vilify somebody just because of their racial or religious group or social status even, then it's going to be perfectly legal to vilify the white bread, redneck, bogan scumbags who come from Europe. And at the moment, if you call them that to their face, they can actually sue you for vilifying them. If you point out that the reason Australia's a fucking mess at the moment is because we've been colonised for 249 years. They don't like that sort of illumination of their own world situation. They think that when the 18C is repealed or modified, then it's going to be okay to tell Jackie jokes on the radio, just like it was considered more or less okay back in the 60s and 70s when I was a kid. They think it's going to be okay to tell Jewish jokes, which I'd never really run into a Jewish joke until I went to a Catholic school in the 1970s. But all the little Catholics were running around using the term Jew in a disparaging fashion. And if somebody had a tin of cakes sent to them in the mail and they opened the tin of cakes and they wanted to hog the whole lot for himself, they would immediately be called a greedy bloody Jew by the Catholics. I'd never heard that kind of reference, but it's going to come back, Malcolm Turnbull is going to bow down to the extreme right wing of the Liberal Party, and he's going to change it to please them because they feel threatened. Oh dear, what if somebody overhears us or taps our phone when we've got our guards down? It's a strange situation that with all of the shit that's going on in the world, that's the biggest thing that the Australian parliamentarians can come up with to bother about. During the past week, Turnbull's suddenly revealed that he's a nation-building prime minister, because he's going to expand the Snowy River hydroelectric project by digging a couple of tunnels between some existing dams. He's not going to build any more dams, and he's going to install a pair of one pump storage project with 2 tunnels. And he's talking as if this is going to make much more power and it's cleaner and it's greener and all the rest of it. Not long after I replaced Judith Wright as poet in residence for the Environment Centre at Armidale, look up Judith Wright if you don't know whose boots I had to step into, She was sort of the first Australian environmental poet who acknowledged Aboriginality, as being a thing on the landscape. Grew up on a sheep farm to the east of Armidale, maybe 80 miles away from here, 100 miles, something like that. Anyway, one of the first things they asked me to do when I took on being her replacement, they gave me an environmental impact survey for a thing called the Styx River Pumped Storage Hydro Project. And the idea was to pretty much stuff 2 river systems because they were going to put a dam at the top and a dam at the bottom, and all the hydrology at the top end was going to be buggered up and the hydrology at the bottom end was going to be buggered up, and they weren't going to make any electricity at all. What they were going to do was they were going to run their brown coal-fired power station down in Victoria at its exact peak thermal efficiency operational throttle setting, and they were never going to make any changes on its throttle setting. They were just going to run it 100% flat out because it was designed to produce this much electricity with this much coal and this much air, and that would give them the lowest amount of unburned carbon shitting out into the atmosphere. And then they're going to take the electricity that was otherwise surplus to requirements, and all night while the little citizens in the suburbs were sleeping, they would run it through aluminium wires from Melbourne to somewhere near Coffs Harbour, and then pump water uphill all night and fill the dam at the top. And then come sunrise, when the little suburbanites yawn and turn on the heat lamp in the bathroom and turn on the hairdryer and turn on the toaster and the electric jug, and they start getting ready for their day's work, that's when they reverse the blades in the turbine and they let all of the water run back downhill again, and they generate some electricity at the bottom station and stick that back into the grid. Right? It's a load leveling technology so that the power station can run flat out. Doesn't make any renewable energy, doesn't make any clean energy, doesn't do anything except allow the engineer shoveling coal into the power station to keep shoveling at exactly the same rate. And, you know, this has been thought about for 60, 70 years. I mean, they were building the Snowy River scheme when I was in primary school. I remember going down and having a look at it. You know, my parents took me on a holiday. And it was a marvellous thing. But like I said, it stuffed 2 river systems, that one, because they took water out of the ecology and put it in places where it didn't need to be. If irrigation exceeds precipitation, then salination is inevitable. So they turned a lot of otherwise pretty good country into salt flats, and they starved a river, the Snowy River. Well, there's not going to be a whole lot of viable ecology in any dam that gets drained every morning and refilled every night. I can't imagine that any fish is going to be able to adapt to a 24-hour drought cycle like that. So at some point there'll have to be an environmental impact survey into the Prime Muppets' plans to increase the productiveness or the usefulness, I guess, of the Snowy Mountain scheme by adding another pump storage hydro scheme. Because that's the thing. 70% of the electricity that comes out of the Snowy River is pump storage in the mornings. They already use the Snowy River, or the Snowy hydro scheme, as a pump storage facility because it doesn't get enough rain to make enough water to purely run on, you know, precipitation and flow through. It's not one of those, you know, really super rainy places. Yeah. And on the international scene, well, Tronald Dump is still pretending that Obama tapped his phone. He's obviously adopted the Goebbels principle of if you tell a lie often enough, enough people will believe it, that it becomes the subjective truth. So there are probably people out there who think that his phones were tapped. I've got an alternative explanation. I would say that somewhere in the FBI there are phone records, voice records of Donald Trump talking to some Russian while Donald Trump was in Trump Tower. But I don't think that means that Donald Trump's phone was tapped. I think that means the FBI probably taps the phone of a whole lot of Russian visitors and citizens, ex-Russians who've adopted American citizenship, and probably the FBI taps the phone of the Russian ambassador if they've got the technology to do it, and they probably have. So if the Russian ambassador rings up Donald Trump at home and talks to him, of course, that's how the whole story started. In my opinion, FBI have got phone tap records of Donald Trump, but they didn't tap Trump Towers to get them. Ciao.